disappears behind me. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spirit Speaker KC podcast. I am Medium Jamie, and tonight we have a guest in the house. We have Megan Leigh. I'm going to read a short bio with Megan. Megan is a seventh generation seer with a synthetic brain. That means that she sees sounds and as shapes and colors. Everyone has a heartbeat you can hear. I just see it radiating off of people like heat waves. I use this to do medium messages with aura art, coach neurodivergent. Boy, we'll get into that. Energy sensitives and empaths on how to use these abilities as a superpower instead of a burden, and also have a folk apothecary that specializes in non-toxic home health and spiritual items. So welcome to the podcast, Megan. You have a lot going on. We're going to have to talk about
I do. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, welcome. Well, a lot of how I like to get started is I'm always very interested in people's backstory, kind of how they got started on this spiritual journey or spiritual path. Tell the audience a little bit about you, little Megan, as a child. Were you always on this spiritual path? Is it something that just kind of came about? Give us just a little background about your childhood.
Yeah, absolutely. I started seeing spirits at a very, very young age. When I asked my family, like when they knew that I had gifts, the response I got was like, "We don't know, Megan." It was so, everybody in our family had gifts. Nobody notated it. So I do have some very specific memories of seeing ghosts or spirits or energies. And I was lucky enough to have elders in my family say and coach me on what and how to do and deal with that. Because on both sides of my family, everybody either sees, respects, venerates, or works with spirits. Not everybody professionally does it, but everybody is very aware that that is our family gift, and that that's normal to us. Like how some people had to tap into what was normal. Like I didn't think that it was not normal to not see gifts until I went to school. I thought everybody's family did that. Because we did.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So,
The difference between me and the rest of my family is that I'm the only one that has a synesthetic brain. And so with synesthesia, you have an area of senses in your brain that usually get triggered when you like smell something. There's a sense in your brain that says, "I'm smelling lavender." But for me, I don't, that doesn't happen to me. I will see not the color, but the shape. And I will see a shape maybe in that color. But I see, and I hear, and all of my senses kind of either go to another place or they'll go to multiple places at one time. So I will have a little bit more going on with me than just your regular average bear seer or medium.
my gosh. So is that naturally occurring for you, or do you have to set like the intention?
It's naturally occurring. I had to learn how to set boundaries on it so that I
Oh,
could have friends or be in public. Um,
right, right,
it's still pretty difficult for me to go to like concerts. I don't go to concerts unless it's
okay,
like a small intimate concert.
right.
Or I can be around a lot of people at once, but I use lots of tools. You know, I use loops, LLOPS, for earbuds to kind of
Okay.
dim those sensories down for me, where somebody else would be oversensitized or be okay with all of that oversensory. I would need
Uh-huh.
to know the situation before I walked in it so that I could appropriately bring my tools.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. So, as a kid, when you say it was normal, you thought everybody saw spirit. What was your experience like with the spirits? Was it the home you were in at the time? So, was the house haunted or spirit filled, as I like to say? Or tell us how you saw it as a kid.
No, I didn't have a house with spirits in it that we didn't pull in intentionally.
Oh,
But
okay, okay.
my grandmothers on both sides were pretty in tune with spirits. And on my dad's side, so I'm half black and half white. And
Okay.
my dad is black, and on his side, we venerate our ancestors. So there was always an altar with pictures of, family who've passed.
Okay.
And there's always, a glass of water on that altar, or what, and we would speak to them as if they were here. We would tell stories about them. We would bring them in conversation. And then, especially if it was like a birthday or an anniversary, we would bring out all of their favorite stuff, just kind of almost like the Day of the Dead, like how they
Oh,
do that.
yeah.
And so that part of my family respected the dead and could feel and honor them, but didn't really speak on sensing them or
Ah,
experiencing them other than working with them intentionally. And then on my mom's side of the family, and my mom is white, and her family always were like, they called themselves like the Kansas Cunning. They were the people who were farmers. And my mom grew up with the Ouija boards and her and her cousins would do all of that. And my grandmother, her mother, it was really, really, really good at her. So my grandmother and my great aunt, my grandmother's favorite aunt, were very, very good at explaining to the kids if they would say or see something, and they would be like, don't be afraid.
mm,
We have this ability to, do you want to help them? Do you want to ask them something? Do you want to just be left alone? And they would help us like work through why we were seeing them and why they were coming to us.
wow.
And then when both of my grandparents died, my grandmothers died around the same age at the same time. It was kind of
Wow.
weird. So
Uh-huh.
everybody turned their spirituality off and went to religion. So when I was
Oh,
8, there was a hard shift into religion, and nobody talked about spirituality anymore. It wasn't until I was about 18, 17, 18, I started doing fairs, metaphysical or mystic or
mhm,
holistic or alternative fairs.
mhm.
And I was doing readings, and it was my mom's cousin came up to me and was like, I'm so glad that you're still doing your grandma's gift. And I was like, I'm not crazy. I did have those memories.
Right.
What was it that we remember, and that we weren't crazy, and that all of these things were really happening, and putting kind of labels and names to what it was that we were. I found out and took classes about being, synesthetic and having that, or took classes about mediumship. I took a bunch of classes
Yeah. Yeah.
to figure out what was going on in my brain and putting logical words to it so that I could explain to myself what was happening and explain to my other
Right.
cousins that we weren't crazy, that this is the way our family is.
Wow. Wow. So, do you have siblings?
Yes. Yeah. I have one
And
sibling, an older brother.
and does
He
he
is,
have the ability?
yeah, he can definitely talk, see all of the things that I can. He doesn't have synesthesia, but he's got his gift is different from mine, where he can. It's kind of like psychometry, except for it comes to him in a flash. So he can touch anything in the world and flash its past memories of what that
Oh,
was. So,
wow.
but he's one of those people that were not born with empathy for other people. He doesn't like
Oh,
people.
all right. All right.
So he doesn't share his gift, doesn't want to share his gift, does not want to,
That's
he doesn't want to
okay.
help give, he doesn't want to help the dead. Like he's one of those people that if I, tell him, hey, I got this message, we got to do this, this, and this, he'll do it, no questions asked.
Hmm.
But if I tell his kids, hey, ask your dad about, that time when we did this or saw this or conjured this, and
Uh-huh.
my brother would be like, hard pass. He
So
doesn't
that's
associate
that's
with
so
that part of himself.
yeah, that is so cool that yeah, everybody seems to have it.
Mhm.
Why leave it? What did the grandmother's passings have to do with you've been having this for generations, the family members have been having this for generations. Why stop because the grandmother's passed? What was that about?
That's a really good question. On my dad's side, my grandmother had 13 kids. My dad was one of 13.
Wow.
So when she passed, everybody scattered. She was the one kind of holding the whole family together. So
Okay.
everybody moved to different states. Nobody really kind of had those get together times to talk about what was going on or happening or any of that. And then simultaneously, my parents got a divorce. So
Hmm.
we didn't see him very much either.
Okay.
And on my mom's side, also the times, back in the day, you couldn't just say, there was no Long Island medium coming up to the butcher and being like, hey, your grandmother says such and such. That
Yeah.
wasn't a thing. We were really taught that what happens in our home or what we do in our home to stay safe
Hmm.
would only stay in the home, and
Okay.
that the way that we could use our gift would be to put it towards a good deity, and to them they thought that was Christianity.
Hmm.
So like my mom was the church librarian, like
Okay.
whole 9 yards on the Christian path. But so a lot of my cousins, they don't say it like we do of speaking to spirit. They'll say, I got
Hmm.
that message from God, or,
Hmm.
something along that line. Because as soon as there was no matriarch to teach, my mom is one of 3 girls, and they all felt like they had to have someone else attune our gifts and our abilities, and that was a religion.
Okay. Wow. So none of them, grandmother, mother, were doing it professionally, where they were
No,
reading for other people.
right. I've
Really?
got On my mom's side, there's one person is like he works cold cases
Oh,
because
okay,
he's a medium, like
okay,
another
okay.
person, they do different things, but
Right,
they'll
right.
use that in that.
Okay.
But I was the first one to be like, I want to help everybody else too, and not tie it to. I didn't want to hide anything.
Okay, good for you. That means you were meant to,
Yeah.
and maybe you kind of, yeah, you decided you're going to go out on your own and not follow the family. So that's really cool. So you do a lot of different things. We talked about the mediumship, the apothecary. What do you do? Is mediumship your main thing? Do you do intuitive work or psychic work? What would have you found since you've had these gifts as a child that one stands out or you're particularly strong in one? Uh, I know you did a reading for me once at a fair. It's kind of how we got introduced, and it was with your beautiful artwork. But what's your thing or your main thing, or maybe you don't have one main thing?
I think communicating for the dead is something that I will always do in some way or capacity. I think that um, tapping in that way is the thing that brings me a lot of purpose. If I have to see them everywhere, then I am going to help people. Or there was a point actually that I started helping the dead instead of people. To help them be at peace with their soul, or help them wherever they're doing.
Mhm.
The apothecary I created because my kiddos have autoimmune disorders. So everything, you can only take your child to Children's Mercy so many times before you quit doing everything and become an
Right.
herbalist and making everything you possibly can for that child.
Yeah.
And there was just so many things that I was doing for him that was helping everybody along our medical journey, that
Mhm.
everybody was like, Megan, you've got to sell this. You have to help in that way.
Oh,
So I do the Lawrence Farmers Market in Lawrence, Kansas, and that's a steady thing for me. And then I don't do mediumship as much because my kids are eighth generation seers,
yeah.
and I cannot take them to a metaphysical fair, because if I open the door to the dead, my 3-year-old is already in the land of the dead talking to them and inviting them in. So until I can teach him how to better use his abilities as well, I
Okay.
do not do that very much. I definitely don't do. I do some private readings, but not very many, because
Okay.
I can't do them at home, and I
Right.
would have
Right.
to go somewhere. And I've got a 3 and a 6-year-old, so until they get a little older,
Yeah.
my life is not my own. So
Yeah. That's true. That's true. I
and
totally
the coaching is something I adore doing, and I want to do more and more of all the time, because I was born with all of these. The people
Mhm.
who are waking up their own abilities, or tuning into their own abilities, or actually correcting those ADHDs or neurodivergence, or those labels that our community and our culture labeled them. And they are actually putting and finding out, oh, it may not be that you're ADHD, but your superpower in being an empath is hyper focusing on multiple things at
Mhm.
once, and you need to know how to those are the people that need to be entrepreneurs. They need to
Uh,
use that
right,
ability to multi-hyper focus instead of being labeled and medicated.
right, right.
It's my
What?
true belief that a lot of labels and a lot of medications are really just dumbing down or dimming brain function and sensories. America is one of
Oh,
just a handful of countries who only teach five senses, and we have so many more.
okay. What do you mean by neurodivergent? What folks don't know what that means, or it's the first time them hearing that term. What does neurodivergent mean?
So in America, because we only teach five senses, if you use more than those on a regular basis, and that puts you in a situation that you cannot, and I say this with like love and air quotes, but function
Mhm.
as a normal person, neurodivergence is actually a form of something else. Like synesthesia is neurodivergent because not everybody's sensations cross like mine do. Being
Okay.
on any type of spectrum is neurodivergence.
Oh,
Being
okay.
an empath and being able to feel or having cognizance at the same time, neurodivergence. And unfortunately, our community labels that as such when
Oh,
it's something that could actually just be coached and mentored and have tools and be okay with.
are you seeing more of that, you think, in young kids, or is that something that's always been around?
It's
The
something that's
neuro.
always been around, but more and more and more and more. I teach a lot of classes I started teaching classes at the fairs, the metaphysical
Uh-huh.
fairs.
Uh-huh.
And I would see the class size over the year. I would say about from 2020 on. 2020, the class sizes continually went from 15 to 20 to over 50 and 75,
Okay.
into the hundreds of people coming to sit in standing room only to learn about what they thought was a label, and it was actually an ability that nobody was telling them,
Oh.
or a clair that nobody was explaining to them, and everybody else was just dismissing it.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. So I know as mediums, we all fundamentally do the same thing,
Yeah.
talk to the dead or those living in another realm, vibration. How do you what's your process for connecting with those that have crossed over? I think it's kind of interesting to find out because there will be mediums or developing mediums watching the podcast. And I think sometimes we always kind of get curious, how do other people connect with spirit? So, what's your process? How do you connect with those across the veil?
Yeah, I love that you ask that because we all do it differently.
Yeah,
And although it may be the same source that we're tapping into, we get to it differently. We talk about
yeah,
it differently. We have different language.
yeah.
We act with, our relationship with spirit is different. And I love that, your students in teaching mediumship, that breaking down those mistruths really of
Yeah,
how and who and all of that should and could and would be a medium and what that looks like.
yeah.
And my process changed. My process changed from every age that I was at. It has changed.
Okay.
When I was younger, I was always taught to not let the spirit come through you to talk because we were so young.
Uh,
And so I understand now that that was kind of a protection thing, but it really gave me autonomy over what my role was with spirit and the dead, and what I could and how I could speak to them or be with them or all of that.
Okay.
And the way that my grandmother on my mom's side taught me how to communicate with the dead was always to use a token or a something of theirs. And they used to do, what we called table talk. So they would
Okay.
put the thing in the middle of the table and everybody would put their hands slightly above the table. Yes or no questions, kind of very Ouija boardish.
Okay.
And yes or no questions. And they were not allowed to put that thought into your head. That
Spirit
they
was not
had to
allowed.
communicate through the table.
Ah.
So as I got older, that process completely changed because of my outlook on the world, my spiritual belief systems, and my also spiritual practice. So now, as an adult doing readings, like I'm at a fair tomorrow for 3 days, and this is what I will do. Is I place my tongue on the roof of my mouth neurologically. That cuts the chatter of your own brain, telling yourself that your voice is your voice. And I start chanting. I do Sanskrit, and it's Sat Chit Ananda, which is love, beautiful life, wealth, and abundance,
Okay.
while simultaneously hyper focusing on the name of a person that they want to speak to. I do this for a few reasons. One is if I'm chanting and then my tongue is at the roof of my mouth, whatever comes in after that, I must trust is for me, not of me, because I'm chanting. That's not me.
Okay.
That message wasn't for me. That didn't come from this. That came from somebody else.
Okay.
So as I paint, as you know, and I paint these messages because that's kind of like automatic writing for me.
Yeah.
I know when the
Yep.
painting's done, the reading's done, we're done.
Okay. Okay.
And once I hyper focus on that name, that person comes to my mind's eye, kind of like an old school video,
Ah.
with the film.
Mhm. Uh.
And I will see what they want me to see. And then I'll feel what they want me to feel. And
Right.
I will open my mouth and it comes out. I tell people all the time, I use the phrase word vomit because it's just like this is what they want to say.
Oh my
And
God.
I feel the push of them saying what they want to say. And then a lot of times, once I open my eyes, it's not until then that I see the impact of what I just said or am validated or anything about that, because I'm just a hollow bone at that point and I'm just
So are you?
communicating.
So you are in a way. It sounds like trance channeling in a way. So
Mhm.
you don't stop and ask your recipient or your sitter. You're not stopping and asking your sitter if they understand.
I do after they've said what they said. I'll say, does that make sense to
Okay.
you?
Okay.
And most of 99.99% of the time, I open my eyes and there's tears just streaming down because they'll
Right.
say something super personal that I couldn't have known. I shouldn't have known. There's no
Right.
way. I'll
Evidence.
describe what
Evidence.
I'm seeing, even. And I usually
Right.
start with describing what I'm seeing
Okay.
because I see before I hear.
Ah. Okay.
And so I will describe the person and then I'll hear the message. But the way my senses work is sometimes when I see something, I will then feel it instead of hear it. Or I
Mhm.
will, if I hear something, I will smell it before I know it. Like those
Oh.
senses cross.
Oh
So
wow.
I will explain what's happening to me. And usually, ironically, it's exactly what they need.
Exactly. I love that, and it's so. I love how we do as mediums, as a collective, do things different. So when a client sits down with you, you're more direct. You want to ask them who they want to hear from versus spirit centered, where whoever wants to come through comes through. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. I do not open that door. I do not.
And why
I do
is
not
that?
open that door. And
Why?
I usually also don't do galleries like you do. I do not do spirit galleries. I'll teach
Yeah,
classes till I'm blue in the face. I don't open the
yeah,
door
yeah.
because for me, I've got all these senses going on, right? So
Ah,
it's
okay.
kind of bombarding to me
Ah, yeah, yeah.
to be
I
like,
get
all
that.
right, here's in your room. Because for me, it's like they kind of stack up on top of each other. And that sense to me, it feels like if I was standing right next to a speaker at a concert and I just want to ball my fists up and pins and needles it. Um,
Ah,
so I don't open the door. And because since I was so young, I was taught that I have autonomy over that. You know,
hmm,
I was taught you're not coming through my body if I don't want you to come. You're not speaking. It's not,
right.
I didn't say you could speak right now
Oh,
because I
wow.
was taught that so young. And so a
Yeah,
lot of times I will call the person all the time, actually, all the time.
right, right.
The only time that I don't call the person is if I go straight to source. If they say, I don't really care about who comes through the dead, I just want to hear the message. So I'll go straight to
Mm,
source and I will envision this beautiful golden light and I will ask source what their message is to them. And if source tells me their message is that their grandmother is standing to their left and needs to talk about this, then I'll
okay.
say it without asking or calling for that person. But if that's not the case, then I will always, always, always ask, who do you want to? Especially if I'm at an affair or an event, because people are walking around in circles
Yeah,
at these events, and that's just a lot of energy.
it
And
is. It
if
is.
people are talking,
Yeah.
and that's an extra sensory,
Yeah.
and then I'm tuning in, tapping in, and that's an extra sensory. And so
Wow.
I kind of put those boundaries up so
Right.
that I don't I don't get those big waves, those or
Okay.
knock myself down. Because what will happen to me if I don't is I get nauseous. I get very nauseous, pins and needles, or I will feel like my head is a balloon or a kite waving around, and I
Wow.
need to come back into who I am. And
Okay.
that's how I know either I've done too many or, I open the
Yeah.
door. I don't do that because of that.
Yeah, yeah. And I've met other mediums who, for whatever reasons, don't do gallery work. I
Hmm.
think it's very interesting. I love how you go direct or ask the person who they want to hear from, because I do it quite the opposite.
Yeah.
And as you and I have talked about, and I tell my students,
Mm.
I'm just a really big believer in mediumship. There's no right or wrong.
Mhm. Yeah.
That we all do it differently, and yeah, you may learn a technique or a way from me, take a class from Megan and learn it another way, and take
Yeah.
a class from somewhere else. And I'm a big believer in just taking what fits you.
Hmm.
Take pieces of it, and
Yes.
then you can kind of make it your own. So I know a lot of old school mediums that have been around 40, 50, 60 years would be like, no, you can't do it that way. But I'm a big believer in whatever works for you, as long as you're bringing through evidence, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, how you get that evidence is good. So I love that you do that. That kind of scares me, going direct, because I'm like, yeah, um, Like, what if they don't come through? How does that work for you? What if somebody sits down with you and they're like, oh, I want to connect with my brother who's in spirit, and you don't get brother, but someone else? Or how does that work for you? Or does it not happen? Most of the time you get who they ask for. How does that work for you?
Most of the time, I get exactly who I call for.
Okay.
There's a few different scenarios that will happen. The land of the dead is vast, and sometimes when folks pass on, they may be in an area that is not allowing them to come through because they haven't worked through whatever their life experience was. An example is I've seen like a land of the regret. They have so many regrets that sometimes they just kind of walk around in circles with that regret, mulling it over and over and over again. And it kind of kicks up like dust around them. And I'll have to call for them several times for them to hear my voice. And then I'll be like, oh, she's talking to me. And then they'll come. There's also like a land of processing where it's not that you regret it, but you do need to process it. And they'll say, I'm not ready to address the person in front of you. I'm sorry.
Mm.
And there's also, I've had a time where a lady asked for her nephew, and I have I've been to Egypt before, and in Egypt I started studying. Is really when I studied the land of the dead and Anubis, because he's a god of the dead in Egypt.
Oh, okay.
And there was a point in my career where I was like, I'm no longer. It's not about the client and if they're satisfied. It's about, is the person who's died, is that satisfied? And I was working with these deities, and when I called his name, instead I saw a deity's face. I saw the Anubis face, and he was like, "You are not supposed to call his name again. Don't say it, not a single more time."
Oh,
And I was like,
wow.
okay. I opened my eyes and I was like, I'm sorry. My guides have been told me that whatever he was in was shady enough for me not to speak on. Her reaction was like, oh, I knew it. He was into
Oh,
some dark magic. And I was like,
oh my God.
okay.
They kind of
Another
validated
time.
that for you.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
validated. Wow.
So whatever happened to his soul, that was not my business. And I was not supposed to
Right,
see that.
right, right.
So I was told to not. Another time, like somebody said, "Oh, I want to talk to my mother," and they would see my mother, Eleanor, and they were raised by a person that they called mother and birthed by a person who was called Eleanor. And if they say, I want to talk to my mother, Eleanor, then their mother comes up first, and I'll have to call for Eleanor again and again for that person, because this person's need to communicate as something will be stronger than Eleanor's need to be
Wow. Yeah.
present. So that spirit will kind of overcast their energy instead of that one energy. So I will then have to tell the person, their person they called mom, hey, we know that you're loved. We know that, please come back in her dream time. She still wants to talk to you, but in this time, she wants to call Eleanor. And a lot of
Oh,
times that person will go get that person, or will come right after that person, or they'll come right after that. But that's the
okay.
only other time that it's been that person's need to communicate as something would overcast a name that I called, if the
Uh-huh.
province of that name of who they were to that person was similar to the other province.
Ah, okay. Okay. Oh, wow. How did you come to find out about the land of regret, or the land of these different places where you say spirit is at, these different places? How did you learn? Because I mean, I kind of heard something similar, like once we cross, everybody goes to the healing room because
Mhm.
living a physical incarnation is tough.
It's
And you're
rough on
coming
Earth. It's
back
so
home.
dense.
Yeah. And you're
Mhm.
coming back home, and you kind of got to, we have to go to this healing room to kind of heal from this previous incarnation. How did you
Mhm.
find out about? I know the land of the dead, you mean the afterlife, or I'm assuming you mean spirit world.
Yes.
But how did you
Um,
find out about all the, like the land of regret or some of these other places?
yeah, it was really through my ancestors. On
Mm.
my dad's side, we're African American. We venerate ancestors. I practice Haitian voodoo. We call up, who, our people, work with our people. And I was working with my grandmother. And how that works for me and my spiritual practice is we've got our ancestor altar. I've got a picture of that person. I've got a white candle lit next to them. And I'm sitting down with their favorite food. Because vitality is transferable
Mm.
between veils. So the vitality
Okay.
of that food, the spirit gets to consume. It's kind of like, the Disney princesses, they like suck out the life of somebody else, is kind of how I see it. But they get that vitality of your laughter, your community, your communion with them. And
Mm.
my grandmother said, "You're about to get a picture of me, and it will have multiple family members in it." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool." And she said, "You're not going to know some of them, but you're not supposed to quite yet. Just put it on the altar, and we're going to have another conversation next week." Lo and behold, my great aunt is like, "Hey, I had this dream. You need to have these pictures." She sent me these pictures, and there was the picture my grandmother said that I would have. I said, "Okay, thank you." I printed it off, put it out there, lit a candle for that one, put a cup of water out there. And I asked my grandma, "Why did you want this picture so bad?" And she
Mm-hmm.
said, "Because some of these people are my people, and they're in the land of the truly forgotten. And I want to go spend my time in this vitality that you're giving me to go get them."
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, whoa,
Oh, my.
whoa. And she said, "Their names cannot be forgotten. You will be dreaming about them one by one. You need to write their name down on the back of this photo.
Oh,
And
my.
some you're not supposed to know. And I'll tell you that that's fine. Don't do research on them." But I was fascinated. So I immediately she would give me a name, and it would be in a dream, when I would hear it
Right.
repetitively, or I would
Uh-huh.
wake up and I would meet 6 Mary Sue Ellens. And I would be like, "That cannot be your name."
Right.
So I couldn't deny it.
Right. Oh, wow.
And then they
Yeah.
started teaching me about different areas that people were at and how to go get them, and that a soul can be truly forgotten or lost their way or any of that. And as a family member, the blood of my blood, I can help them.
Hmm. Oh, wow. That almost sounds like it could be a book. Uh, all of that with the ancestors and wow. So when you're doing your mediumship, can you sense spirit? Can you feel them around? So I like how you said earlier you were taught with the hands above the table. Sounds like a lot like physical mediumship, and
Mm-hmm,
then the mental mediumship when
mm-hmm,
you're kind of feel. Do you, as you call in? So I give you a name, and you're calling that person in. Are you? Because I think of mediumship, and this could be different for you. This is just kind of some of my training and what I've felt that basically mediumship is a soul to soul connection.
mm-hmm,
My technique or how I do it is I shift my awareness, I sense spirit, and my soul is blending or merging with that soul, and I become aware of things. I become aware of some of the things of that spirit, and sometimes it's so, depending on the soul, it's so strong. It's like they're right here. Are
Hmm.
you sensing spirit at all? Do you sense spirit?
Yes. Yeah. I don't merge with it like you do.
Ah,
Um, but I can sense it in the way of it's almost the thing I can compare it to is heavy.
oh,
Um, it will
heavy.
feel like sometimes pressure on my ears,
Okay.
or my ears will start ringing, or
Yeah. Yeah.
pressure on the back of my neck,
Yeah.
or pressure on my throat,
Ah, okay.
or tingling in my
Yeah.
mouth or my nose and sinuses.
Ah,
Um, and
okay.
a lot of times it will be like a ding, like when you were a kid and you got a hearing test and you
Yeah.
had to raise your hand, it'll be a
Yeah.
ding. And I'll say, then I'll tune in. Okay, who's dinging me? Do I want to engage, or do I not want to engage with this ding, or with this
Ah,
pressure, or with this
yeah.
sensation, or any of that? And then when I do, it's whatever I pay attention to. It's my attention and my focus. If I
Okay.
pay attention, if I give them my attention and I focus on that attention, is when I always get more. Another sense and or information will come through with that. It won't just be my own first sensations or things I pick up on.
Okay. So in a way, it's kind of similar. It seems like what you're saying is, I like that because you say you get dings or pressure, and again,
Hmm.
as I would tell anybody out there developing, that we all sense spirit differently,
Yeah.
but I can agree with you because sometimes I have had that ringing in the ears or the
Hmm.
chills or, as
Yes.
you say, a heaviness. That's kind of their energy, I believe, kind of merging, coming close to mine. But I
Yes.
like what you said because you said then you just give what you get. You're not trying, because I think sometimes students in mediumship, they try instead of just allowing the information to come through in whatever way it comes through or what information comes through. I like that you said you're not looking for anything, you're not trying, you're just kind of, your awareness is shifted and you're picking up what you pick up.
Right. And a lot of times, what I'll do is I have a cue that they can talk to me. And for me, I put my tongue at the roof of my mouth and I start chanting. And they know by now, if I do that, they're okay to push an impression on me, whether that's a
Mhm.
feeling, whether that's an image, whether that's a sound or a voice.
Right.
Then I can't put my nothing on it because my focus and my intention is on my chant. And I allow the spirit to come through so that the only thing I know I have to do is keep breathing.
Right, right. What did you say the tongue on the roof of the mouth does?
Neurologically, it tells your body you're not in fight or flight. So, neurologically, placing your tongue at the roof of your mouth will
Uh-huh.
tell your heartbeat to slow down and that you're safe. While you're putting your tongue at the roof of your mouth, your
Okay.
neurological system and your parasympathetic nerve system, which is back here because your
Uh-huh.
mouth is connected at your cranial nerve right here, back
Okay.
to where your nervous system is housed. And a lot of people call
Oh,
it a spirit entry anyway. So
oh,
what that does is tell that I'm safe. I feel safe. I'm
okay.
safe.
Oh, wow.
This is okay. But if for me, if my tongue is not there, don't bother me. I have stuff to do.
Oh my God. So does that work in other areas of life? So not just when you're connecting with spirit. So is the roof on the roof the tongue on the roof of the mouth, you're having a stressful day at work or whatever, does that work not just in mediumship? Is that a technique that listeners or so forth could use in other situations?
Absolutely. It's actually an anxiety tool. Is
Oh,
to box breathe. So breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts
right.
while placing your tongue at the top of your mouth. And neurologically, it's an anxiety move to calm your senses down. But a lot of times, anxiety is really just you either using your gifts, or excuse me, your abilities to a lot of empaths have anxiety because anxiety is you projecting yourself into the future and feeling it before you're able to deal with it. Or it's you feeling someone else's energy and that's your cue. So by
Ah,
putting your tongue on the roof of the mouth, start box breathing or start breathing and counting your breath or exhale
uh-huh.
longer than you inhale.
Right.
It will calm that down so that your intuition then can kick in. And then your
Hmm.
intuition is the one that steps forward and not the monkey mind of, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, the feeling of this. And then you get hijacked by your emotions instead of the situation of your own ability to hyper focus on something that hasn't happened yet, or
Ah.
someone that is loves you and is projecting, or you know.
I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to try that. That's I had heard about the tongue on the roof of the mouth, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to try that again. So
Yep.
with your mediumship or your different things that you do, are you a meditator or have you ever heard of the sitting in the power practice or sitting with spirit? Are you someone who does that? Spend time with
Yes and
spirit?
no.
Okay. I know you have
Um,
two little ones, so it may be hard to
yes.
kind of get that in. I was just curious if you were big on meditation or if you had heard of sitting in the power.
Yes, I have heard of it. And
Okay.
I'm kind of the person that's, I was the kid that I couldn't sit still for very long.
Okay.
And so I like meditating, but I like those open eyed meditations, which, so for me, I like those long walks in nature. That's my
Okay.
meditation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
like to listen to, Solfeggio frequencies
Yeah.
and paint, and that's my meditation. For me, the word meditation is to sit without objection of a negative or a positive anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And so being able to do that, I love doing. But sitting there with my eyes closed, oming until I can be quiet doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is meditation. Uh, I find has been it's changed and evolved for me because now one I know that I can't shut the brain down. I
Yep.
I just have to I know thoughts are going to come in and what I've discovered is that the thoughts are going to come in, just don't get drawn into those thoughts. Let them pass by, say hi and bye.
Mhm.
So that's I was just curious if you had a practice of where you spend time with spirit. And I feel like you do when you say go on those walks, because I
Yep.
feel like you can spend time with spirit in lots of different ways. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to just be a certain way. So
Right.
again,
And sometimes, yes, I do sit in front of my ancestor altar and, and have those conversations and get quiet or journal. And I also love divination tools for my
yeah,
own self because for me to read into myself, I tell people all the time, I'm a thick chick. I have thick feelings. I have thick thoughts. And sometimes it's really hard for me to get out of my own way. And
yeah,
I'm very aware of that for myself.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if I
I
can do something like shuffle cards as the meditation, and then whatever comes out as the message. For myself, I love doing that so that
Yeah.
I can get my own self out of the way, because it's really easy to trust when you're reading for someone else. It
Yeah.
is the trust when you're reading for yourself of that information that you're getting for yourself, at least for me, of what is that. So I would need
Yeah.
to write it down or put it down or dream on it or put it on my ancestor altar and see what serendipitous aha has happened for me to truly believe that this was the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you a couple things. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but
You're
I
good.
want to touch base with a couple things. I'll start with this. One of the things that Meg does at fairs are these beautiful drawings, and she tunes into you. And one of the things that you did for me a few years ago I got a peacock feather, and I believe I still have the recording of our session on my phone. How did you get into the art? Tell people a little bit about what these intuitive drawings are about, or what you're getting, because it's amazing what you do when someone sits down and you've got all these markers and colors and pencils and chalk, and it's just amazing. Because I'm not an artist per se in that way. So I love when people do that. How did you get into that, or how does that help you in giving readings to people? Because I love how you read them and then you give them a picture of what you get.
Yeah. I was doing readings and people would come back and be like, wait, what did you just say? And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put this on paper so that you take it with you and
Ah,
you have that. But also, I have a synesthetic brain. I see sound as shapes and colors. So I wanted to show people my perspective of what it actually looked like when I look into someone. If I'm not doing mediumship, if
mhm.
I'm not calling a
Yeah,
name,
right,
the way
right.
that I'll do a reading is I will look at you and slightly away from you and do my, meditation, my chant,
Mhm.
and I will see what comes out, and we'll talk about it. And because I can see your heartbeat on the outside of your body. And as a human, whatever you're going through, so is your heart. So, as so within is without is a very, very true statement. It's not similar to, it is a mere copy of what's happening inside that comes
Uh-huh.
outside of you. So the first thing that I see will be a shape or color, and those all have meaning to them of what it is that you're going through. And those meanings are just meanings that I've collected throughout my lifetime that are easy for me to explain to other people, but also because I sense one thing and another thing happens in my brain. If I were to smell a banana, it would look like a shape to me. So I just figured out one day that if I just started putting what I saw down, people were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is the energy that I'm radiating.
Yeah, yeah.
And how, I've got a journal that I am very close to publishing with those colors and shapes, because um, I want people to know that not only is that an ability, not a gift. Everybody
Uh-huh.
can see auras. It's a sense
Right.
that you can also start looking for those shapes, start looking for those colors, start looking for those feelings, and within yourself and with someone else. And knowledge is power. Once you know about them, you're able to change the frequency, change the color. Sometimes I'll draw something in a color that's not their aura because they need it. They need that
Ah,
color around them.
right, right. Oh,
And whether that's confidence or protection or whatever that is, I'll use that so that they can do something. Color therapy is real. It will surpass
okay.
your logic every time.
Right. Oh, it's amazing. I have the peacock feather hanging up in my office. I love that. So if people are, hey, go check Megan out at different fairs around the city. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is just kind of your thoughts on why you think we don't see more African Americans in the spiritual, metaphysical community. We both, I do fairs. I've probably done fairs in 10 or 12 different states. And these are fairs that will have anywhere from 50 to, I've been to fairs that are metaphysical expos that have had 100 booths, vendors, and
Mhm.
readers. And I will literally, at sometimes, be the only
Yeah.
African American Black person there. Now, I know that there are Black seers and mediums and psychics. I was just curious what your thought, because I get this question a lot um, from non-black people. Why do you think it is, or what has been your experience as to why at events there aren't more black psychics or even minorities, Hispanics, maybe one every blue moon, or Asian or whatever. But since we're both African American, why do you think it is? What's been your experience?
I'm so glad you brought this up because this is so important.
Yeah,
And it is. And I feel like for a very long time, I would do fairs just because that representation needed to be represented. That
yeah,
we not only belong in these spaces, but we are meant to be in these spaces. And that it's not only okay, but you belong in that space.
yeah, yeah,
And I give a lot of, pep talks to people of, please do a novice spot, or,
yeah.
reach out and be engaged. But from what I've noticed, there's two very distinct reasons.
Hmm.
One of them, colonialism. There was a huge um, genocide. And within that genocide, we as Black people, any other really race outside of Christianity, we weren't allowed to speak to anyone who's died. The Bible says it's evil.
Wow.
Anybody who has outside of Jesus Christ, because that's the thing. And the
Yeah,
Black community is so embedded in Christianity because of
yeah.
colonialism. We were not allowed to practice anything else, or
Mm,
death, huge or death.
right.
And so there's, colonialism and Christianity have, in my opinion and experience, and from asking around, boxed us
Hmm.
in a way that it would be we wouldn't be able to tune into these innate abilities and use them without fear of our soul,
Hmm. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is heavy. And
Yeah.
then once we kind of were like, okay, we're breaking into our own people and this is accepted. In my family, on my dad's side, the African American side, for us, by us, to us only.
Hmm.
So we weren't allowed to tell white people what we practiced with on our ancestor altar. We weren't
Hmm.
allowed to speak on what we could see out in the world because that might be shunned upon, and a white person might get away with it, but you're not gonna.
Right. Right. Right.
Don't rock that boat. Fear of death, fear of prison. People get their whole throats stepped on for no reason.
Yeah.
Why would you go do that? Why would you tell someone you don't know who they are, what their background is,
Yeah.
something that's coming to you if they're not ready for it? And then what's the backlit?
Yeah.
Fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have seen and been a part of a few all Black metaphysical fairs that are wonderful. Nature Made Me in Kansas City is a beautiful brick and mortar, and they do Black only, metaphysical fairs.
Oh,
And I advise people of color to tune in to those kind of grassroots type of ways.
mhm.
But and then also, I really do. I hope that you and I are true light holders in those spaces. Sometimes it is not easy being the token Black person. It is
Yeah,
not easy. Everybody's looking at me like, oh my gosh, she's got root work and she's a Black, but she's half Black. She's okay. Those things that I have to deal with is not for everybody. And a lot of
yeah,
times people do have our gift, step in that space and we're like, oh no, I'm not dealing with it. I'm not being treated this way. So I
yeah,
also, on the same side of that, call to other races to be super open and be
yeah.
careful not to want to change anybody else's religion or tradition,
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
as
Yeah,
well as not everything. I hope that we inspire other women of color, other people of color, to
yeah,
stand in those spaces with you and I, because I know I inspire so many little Black girls out there to be entrepreneurs, that they
awesome.
can and do belong in a place where other people support their creativity.
Yeah, that's very beautifully said. It's amazing, and I think sometimes I'm just amazed because it is 2025, and you just think that you would see more of it. And I thought, okay, it's just Kansas, Missouri around here, and it's like, no, I'll be in Florida or Illinois or some of
Nashville,
these other places. Yeah, and it's everywhere,
mhm.
and yeah. So that's very beautifully said. Maybe we can inspire people and be that light. Where can people reach out to you, Megan, get a reading, find out more information, take classes? Where's the best place for people to reach out to connect with you?
My website is Megs Folk Apothecary, FOLK, because it's right now, especially in our political climate, it's not we the people, it's we the folks that are going to make change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I have a folk apothecary that is made of the folks that I come from.
Okay. I
And
love
I have all of my social medias are Meg's Color Vision, because I have color vision.
that.
I
Yeah.
see sound as color, as shapes and colors, and everything from Instagram to TikTok is makes color vision, and that's the best way you can find me. I am about to put out my own podcast too. Jamie will be a
Yeah.
guest on there, and
That's
that's going to
awesome.
be the wake up wave, because it can't be all for naught. We all have to wake up somehow in some way.
Well, I appreciate all you do. It's fascinating to hear how we do similar things but do it differently. And I'm
Yeah,
absolutely all in for it. I love that. I'm not a cookie cutter type of person. So I
no,
love learning and I can't wait till you teach classes because I tell my students all the time, I'm continuously taking classes and developing
same.
myself. Development doesn't end. Learning doesn't end. It's
No,
one of those things that I want to keep doing. I love to learn from other people. So I thank you so much for being here today. I know people are going to absolutely love this. So thanks so much. And for everyone else,
absolutely.
thanks for tuning in. Check my channel out on YouTube at Spirit Speaker KC as well as Spotify. And I will see you next time.
Thank you, Jamie.